Welcome to today's episode, the podcast where we discuss the most recent installments of a different series every show. It is Friday, September 5th, the end of summer. School is back in session. The Runarounds, however, has just dropped on Amazon Prime. It's a musical teen drama series created by Jonas Pate about a group of kids who have just graduated high school or are graduating high school, trying to make it as a band. And Jonas Pate, you might know him because he did the Outer Banks TV show with his twin brother.
Creator of Outer Banks is literally on the poster of this series.
He's on the poster?
No, I said the creators of Outer Banks, like the words.
Oh, yeah, because it's not a spin-off, but it does take place in the same universe, and the Runarounds did appear in Season 3, Episode 7 of Outer Banks. Yes, I did my research. So Charlie Cooper and his friends form a band called the Runarounds. Not originally, but you watched the hour-long pilot. Tell me about the band first and then get into the plot.
Okay, so yeah, Charlie Cooper, he's the aspiring guitarist. He's the main character. He has a love interest named Sophia.
Is he a typical teen? Is there anything weird about him?
I thought that he looked a lot like the main character from Outer Banks. At least I could see the similarity between the two of them.
Okay, to me, he looks like a young Zac Efron, but like in kind of like the goofy, innocent. Like this show reminds me a lot of a Freeform series rather than a CW series.
He has an annoying little sister, and then he also has a dad that's a writer that is having trouble selling anything.
Played by Hayes MacArthur, who's married to Ali Larter, but Hayes MacArthur has always done comedy, so it's kind of like in Outer Banks where you had Chip Eston from Whose Line Is It Anyway?
Right, because Hayes MacArthur is playing kind of a more dramatic role.
So expect Hayes MacArthur to be evil, because not only is he having to balance out the cast made up of a lot of kids who've never acted before, but he also has to, I think he's going to like end up being a much more serious character than we've seen him on things like Angie Tribeca.
Then you have Neil, he's the backup singer, he plays guitar, he's a little bit of stoner as well. In fact, our first scene that we see with him, he gets busted by either the principal or a teacher for smoking at school.
It's a whole dazed and confused moment, right?
Right, yeah.
So this series, it's interesting because it's sort of taking place throughout all of time. Like, I know it has iPhones and so it's technically modern day, but the way that the kids act and the references they're making, the songs they're playing, everything about it,
right.
it's jarring how it's hard to place the
timeline. I even like went back to the first scene just to see if they had the year on screen, because I agree with you, it was so hard. They weren't acting, they didn't use social media, it was very strange. Then you have Topher, he's the captain of the golf team, he has Princeton in his future, he's with a controlling girlfriend named Amanda, he's the lead guitarist for the band, and then at the
so he's the most at risk of disappearing on Charlie. Charlie can't have that,
right.
So he's going to sabotage Princeton, right? Like he's going to write them a bad letter? No, I'm just kidding. But he does try to convince Hardest, Topher, right?
Yeah.
To stay and not go to Princeton, which is crazy.
Right,
it's like if you're playing the game of life and someone's standing in front of the car being like, no, go in this random direction. I know it's not on the board, but like, let's go for it.
He's hoping for that success story. I mean, he's banking it all on Father Mucker. And then the last person, at least at the start of the series for the band, is Pete. He's the comic relief. He's the drummer, but he's the one that's probably going to get cut.
So it's a 4-person band.
Yes.
And it's not very good because you just said the drummer is no good.
They were at a Hysteria-like party. That's what it reminded me of, the Hysteria TV show. Yeah, in the first 10 minutes of this, and Petey, he just keeps on messing up on drums.
Right, and so, like, you can't deny that Pete is probably named after, like, Pete Best from the Beatles.
Yes.
He's destined to leave. It also reminds me of a lot of, like, musical documentaries that you see these days. The Better Man, right?
Right.
Isn't that the one with the Robbie?
The monkey version.
Yeah, where he gets, like, ousted in this group meeting, and he's just like, all right, I'll be on my way. It sort of seemed like it was setting up for something like that. Also, that thing you do where in the first 20 minutes, Pete gets his neck hurt and he's wearing that same thing that I think Steve Zahn was wearing when he was replaced in the show.
I thought that the thing you do, the guy like hurt his
he broke his arm.
Yeah.
I'm just saying the injury on top of it, it seemed like they were trying to pile in a bunch of references of why he had to go.
Right.
And so they kick him out of Futhermucker. And is that when they decide to change the name of the band as well?
Well, yeah, that's at the very end of the TV series because they're struggling musically, especially like we were talking about with Petey. They are having a tough time telling him, though, that he's going to get cut from the band.
Why is it so hard to tell him?
Because he's talking about how he's going to be so much better and he's making them feel bad. Like, they even bought over a pizza and he's trying to show them, like, all the cool drumming that he did. Right. I did not like his character at first, but I thought that Petey, especially by the end of the episode, gave the show the most heart that it had.
Right. It almost almost felt, and from the limited amount that I saw of Charlie, he's a hard person to bond with. He's a little possessive when it comes to Sophia, but
Mhm.
he's also kind of a dick.
Yeah, well, what makes you say that?
Well, if the way that he's treating Pete, for instance, he
Right.
gets super emotional, mad about people not doing well, right?
Yes, I felt that the way that the whole entire band treated P was really unfair. I call him Petey because they call him that again in the episode, but he got a tattoo of Fathermucker right when they were about to play at the graduation party, and then they tell him that he's out of the band.
I also think so. They swear in this show they have a band that was originally called Fadamaka.
Right.
It could have been for an older audience, but it is somehow geared towards, I feel like, a younger audience
Yeah.
than even Outer Banks. One of the reviews was talking about it's Outer Banks, but without people taking their shirts off. And so they're like acting a little bit more immature. The parents are certainly acting immature.
They have the Project X moment with Charlie within the first 10 minutes when they're at Pete's house and he's like jumping off the roof with a bicycle trying to make it into a pool.
Yes, but at the same time, the Phineas and Ferb like plot line of let's make a one-hit wonder.
Right.
You know, it's so and so it's an interesting show. They did get a lot of songs in the first episode, 25 of them from the Kinks, U2, Rolling Stones, Zeppelin, Metallica, Radiohead. I'm not sure if they just pumped a lot of money into it, but it seemed like every episode has a huge soundtrack list
Yeah,
with it.
very, very much like The Summer I Turned Pretty. Like, that's the number one thing that I can compare it to when it comes to the soundtrack for it. But then it also felt like they were backstabbing Petey because Bez, someone who heckles them in the first party, ends up replacing him as the actual drummer.
Yes.
And, like, it did make sense that Petey had
But
to
Bez
leave.
is very talented.
Yeah, no. Bez's solo drum scene, I thought, was probably the best part of the whole episode because definitely musical talent. I thought that they shot it was cool. But you also have to realize that Bez, being the dick that he was to Petey and then replacing him, like that, how is Petey not supposed to get emotional about that? Because they only mention it. They mention it like at the very beginning when Bez shows up at their garage and they're like, "Oh, it's the dick that heckled us." But afterwards, there's no friction between him and the band.
So what happens to Pete at the end? Is he just off in the corners crying or?
Yeah, so when they're at the graduation party, Petey shows them the tattoo, and then they're like, "We're sorry, we have to kick you out of the band." And he's like, "You know what? Then I'm going to be your number one biggest fan."
So he's going to be groupie.
He was 100% okay with it. I thought the best part was when they were singing the song at the very end, and they give the microphone to Petey, who's in the front row, so he can sing. That's what I mean by heart in terms of the TV series.
They also, and I don't think this is too much of a spoiler, but they eventually make him the manager of the band.
Okay.
I don't want you to make
yeah, because I was watching this first episode and I was like,
Justice for Petey.
He's getting the shit end of the stick in all of these situations.
He also doesn't look like he has, like, out of all the people that Charlie is trying to recruit for college, Pete is the one who doesn't have college. So he's the one guy who was like, no, I'll stick with he's the Zoidberg.
Not to mention he got Fathermucker tattooed across his chest, right? They changed their name like 10 minutes later to the Runarounds.
Is it a real tattoo?
Yes.
I didn't see it.
Yes.
Or is it just Sharpie?
No, it was it looked like a real tattoo
I think
to
it's
me.
probably just Sharpie. You're a kid. I did have friends in high school who got tattoos. I think you can do it if you're 18 years old, but that would be a surprise to me. You didn't talk about Wyatt, really.
Right,
So Wyatt
yes.
is kind of like, he writes his own songs. He joins the band at the end, along with Bez.
He's another guitarist who
but
auditions.
he seems like he's going to have the most introspection, just based on like his family and how like his mom hates him, and he's like this dark, brooding personality.
Let me just talk about this. In terms of the episode, it felt way too exposition filled. Why give us so much? I get it's a pilot, but Charlie's narration describing the band at the beginning was fine, but the show goes overboard with it. With what you're talking about, Wyatt, he needs to find a place after high school because his mom will kick him out. Sophia is defined almost entirely through exposition as valedictorian and pretty nerd, but she has this thing going on with her dad where her dad's an alcoholic.
Don't forget the other stuff. She doesn't drink.
Yeah, I know.
And then where is she going? Stanford?
Stanford. She also was like head of the chess club.
She's the head of the chess club. She's definitely denying Charlie's advances because she knows that he's a player.
Yeah, and even her graduation speech serves as thematic exposition where she talks about how she wished she went to more parties in high school.
But it's funny knowing that Jonas Pate cast his daughter in that role
right.
to make her such a goody two-shoes.
The golden
who's
child.
Like, I'm never going to drink. And then she's watching her friends drink what, horny zombies? Like
Yes.
that's the name of the vodka drink or whatever?
I
The
didn't
shot?
even make that connection, but you're right. She is like again the golden child.
It would just
Everyone
be really
else.
weird if, like, later on in the series, she breaks all those moral codes and she's just, like, off with the main character hooking up.
But that's not even where all of the stories end. Like Amanda setting up a meeting for her and Topher with a guy named Chad so that they can go to the same college. Charlie deciding not to go to college. I kind of talked about that already. And then, yeah, Bez leaving after graduation. So he joined the band just to probably be leaving in the next few weeks and is
You're
not
saying
telling
Bez.
them. Bez,
Bez,
yes.
who's this really talented drummer, he's not going to stay in the runaround.
Right, because he's thinking about going to New York. But that's like, I guess, what, 7 storylines? And that's not even covering all of them.
Is
It's
the
way
reason
too much.
is the reason that Bez well, they have to do a lot of introduction. I always feel bad for pilots because they do have a lot of work cut out for them and
Yes,
just
but
setting things up.
I think what it comes down to is there's just too many main characters because they have to do give all those backstories, right? And there's like 8 of them, and it's like at some point you gotta like cool down a little bit.
It's interesting because when I watched The Outer Banks and then I saw, like, the few minutes of this that I saw, I did think this is a smaller scale show. Like, in The Outer Banks, I think, it's everybody's got parents, and
Yeah,
it's
right.
like and they've got extended family, and so you have to pay attention to, like, 50 characters. Maybe that's because I saw multiple episodes of it, but this one, it felt like you had the band group, and then you had Sophia and maybe her friends, and besides maybe Charlie's parents, like, not a ton of other people.
Okay, so yeah, they do focus on the band. I'm
Yeah.
just saying that there's so many band members that it's hard to give them all each their story. It
Sure.
also feels like it's very unfocused because there's elements of coming of age, drama, comedy, romance, musical, but I'm struggling to figure out what exactly it is. Like, for example, with The Summer I Turned Pretty, I wasn't a huge fan of that TV series, but I knew basically right away it was a coming of age romance. They established that in the first couple minutes. Here, I'm not sure what they want the main genre to be.
I felt like there was a jarring pacing, especially
Right.
around that party, which is when I stopped watching. But like when they cut the scenes of like the kids inside the house to the kids jumping off the roof to him having that conversation with Pete the next day,
Right.
like it just ended. The scenes would end so quickly where I was like, is this a directorial decision
Right.
or
The pacing wasn't slow. It was just so fast
it ended
because
strangely. Like
right.
they could have had the end of a discussion and then dialogue just lead to the ending line, but instead it would just right into the next thing. Did Bez leave because of the name change?
No, he plays the name change came along at the very end. So Topher decides that he's going to 86 Amanda. Amanda gives him an ultimatum. It's me or the band. He picks the band. And then she's like, yeah, fine, go run around with them. And then that's when, because it's actually Topher, he's the one that comes up with the name
But you said
change.
Bez also leaves at the end.
He's planning on leaving in the next few weeks.
Ah,
Yeah,
so he's still part of it. It
it's
wasn't like
kinda
one of those
it's
things
what
like,
it
oh, you
is.
guys aren't cool anymore.
You wanna know what it is? It's paralleling Charlie's story where it's like, he's not telling his parents. Bez is not telling his band because, like, again, Charlie is not going to be going to college. His parents don't know it. They don't know it about Bez. But
Mhm.
it's the first time that Bez plays with them at the very end and the first time that they call themselves the Runarounds. It's weird that it ended the way that it did because it's such small stakes in the end. Like, I'm assuming the Runarounds are supposed to become pretty big,
Well,
right?
it's a real band, and it's just interesting because the characters in the show are the people who are in the real band. So, like,
That's cool. I do like that,
it's
yeah.
cool they've also released their own music, but, like, when you say Axel and Jesse and William and Zende, those are the actual names of the band members. However, in the show, it's Neil, Wyatt, Charlie, Bez, Topher, you
I
know?
just meant for the show, I'm assuming the Runarounds are supposed to become big, but here the first episode ends with them just kind of, like, doing a great job at this graduation party, and it feels like if they really wanna expand, almost like as big as Daisy Jones and the Sixes, you think that it would be, like, a bigger objective that they have
I
to
think they kinda wanna
complete.
stay in Wilmington, though. Like, they wanna just become a very successful local band.
My question for that would then be, it seems like that would be a boring show to watch, though, just a local band playing venues. I don't see how you could really make that interesting.
All right. And so, like, yeah, I had some questions too. You've already answered why they changed the name, but you really haven't gone into Sophia and Charlie's relationship and why it's taken him 4 years. I understand she doesn't want to date him now because she's seen how his ex girlfriends he has a ton of them.
Mhm.
But he met her, we see in a backflash,
In freshman year, I think it was the
in
first
chess
3
club, where they're
weeks.
just by themselves.
Just the 2 of
Why
them.
did he never gang up the courage to just ask her out then?
I do not know. I think that everyone in that situation would have at least by the end of the year just,
If
like, asked her.
if the real answer is that he has been asking her for 4 years and she's been saying no for 4 years, this is a bigger problem, and she shouldn't be the main love interest, and they shouldn't, like, make it seem
No.
like she is.
Actually, out of all the things in the TV series, I really didn't think about it that much, but the will they, won't they, I didn't mind that much because it didn't focus a
Okay.
lot on it.
Another question, which is a more of a nitpick, but her dad is supposed to be grieving the fact that her mom died. Kind of similar how the main character in Outer Banks, his dad, I think, had disappeared and his mom was like not in the picture.
Right.
But like she has had to take over the duties of the adult in the house. Her dad is drunk and gets into accidents and stuff. And
Yeah.
then, but when her dad was explaining that the car was broken and that it wasn't his fault, and she turns around and she's like, "I have to call the insurance." Why does she have to call the insurance? Why wouldn't he be? Isn't he still the one who's on the insurance?
It's supposed to show that
I know
she's more the parent. So
but like I
that's
think
what
that
it
the
was.
insurance person would be like, "Are you the main holder of this policy? If not, please turn me over to your father." Like, I don't think that they would discuss it with her. I don't know.
Uh,
It just that might be just a nitpick. And then Brooklyn Decker, you recognize her?
I obviously know her name, but I didn't know
Swimsuit
who
model.
she played. Yeah.
She was in Chuck, I think, in episodes.
She might have been Charlie's mom, but I think she's definitely the biggest name they have for the show, right?
It was for a while. It was her and Hayes MacArthur, and I was like, "How can they be playing teens? That's weird."
You
And then,
kind of, I wanted to touch on another point you talked about
Yeah.
earlier, where it's like it was hard to place the time frames. They put up flyers instead of using social media to advertise a house party and even find a drummer.
seems like more of a college thing. Like maybe if you're all around the same community, that
Right,
you would
but
still use flyers, but it is an antiquated way of
the
doing
fact
it.
that it was, yeah, I mean, late 2000s at most is what you could maybe
Also,
get away with.
anybody can come to a flyer invite. Would you really want a bunch of people post call or high school graduation showing up?
And depending on what's going to be there, like alcohol and stuff, cops could easily come come there and bust that.
Yeah, but didn't you see that already in the first party? Didn't the
Yeah.
cops show
No,
up there?
that is true.
Cops are less of a concern, but a bunch of 40-year-old dudes expecting to see a rock concert because they found a flyer, it wouldn't even be their fault because honestly, they would just be seeing that and it would say rock concert. They'd be like, kids aren't going to be listening to rock.
But even the songs, Jets, Are You Gonna Be My Girl, Metallica's Enter Sandman, they even sing the Sandman song from like the 60s. Those were all 90s and 2000s. I really liked the end credits because it was like they were showing the graduation party concert, but like it was on a film reel. But even that was 80s. And Amanda in one scene dresses like she's from the 50s when she's talking to Topher.
That would be really funny if the show is aware of how crazy it's being and it's just like really just trying to mess with you. It's like Gen Z doesn't know what they're doing. Actually, is this Gen Alpha at this point?
Gen Alpha, yeah.
I don't think
But
Gen Alpha's 18 years old yet.
I think
This is the tail end of Gen Z.
my thing is though is that it's not even just the fact that they had all this stuff. It's the fact that when you talk about 2020, there really wasn't that much 2020 stuff to even balance all the other like archaic aspects of it.
Would you want Outer Banks cast to come in and start playing roles in this?
I think that'd be cool.
Yeah.
Is
all right.
there is there talk of a crossover?
I don't think so. Anyway, so reviews. What would you give it?
I would give it a 4 out of 10. Again, I like the stuff they did with Petey. I think the singing and acting was fine, and also I like the name Runarounds. I think that the change that they made and how it came about was organic enough, and the end credits. But 4 out of 10 because everything else I just cannot get over.
I think if Amazon was concerned about just getting people to tune in, they should have kept Fadamucka. But as Runarounds it hasn't gotten a ton of people talking about it. There was one Variety article that was just so negative. This is the title. It's a complete waste of time. And multiple other articles were referencing it. It did raise some points that you've brought up. But one positive review would be Tom's Guide. It called it endearing and said it could be the perfect end of summer watch. And it's too early to have really an IMDb rating or anything like that. But I would say it's skewing negative right now. Another article I saw says Outer Banks fans quit creators' new series hours after it drops on Prime.
Ouch.
Yeah. Anything else you want to say about it?
No, that's about it.
Okay. I did think about asking you to watch episode 2 as well, except that was before I read some of the reviews, just because I know there was a huge gap. The pilot was filmed in October of 2022, 3 years ago. And so the rest of the episodes I think were filmed last year or within the last year. And when you're a kid and they're like talking about kids their ages of like 18, 19,
Yeah.
those years can change the way you look.
I mean, just look at Stranger Things.
Well, that's when they were kids. I'm saying like once you're in your like late 20s and 30s, you can do those like multiple years and it won't be that big a deal. Mad Men did it where they had a huge jump. Even Happy Days, they had like 4 years between the pilot to the second episode. But when it comes to this age, I feel like maybe the main characters, they would definitely show a little bit more growth.
I'm assuming the writer's strike had something to do with it as well, but I know that Jonas Pete, he loves North Carolina, hence why it was set here, and he had a lot of trouble filming in North Carolina for Outer Banks.
Well,
So,
the whole series, the Runarounds, is in Wilmington,
right.
which is just his backyard. His daughter's working on it. His wife was working on it.
But I think when it comes to like the years in between or the months that it took, it might have been just like something to do with filming permits. Because again, I know he had a lot of trouble filming North Carolina for Outer Banks. So.
I think it's just the way that like maybe because it was pitched to Amazon Prime, it just took a while to get actually picked up and greenlit. But yeah, thanks for listening. We'll see you on the next episode. Hope you enjoyed this one. Bye.
Bye.